until the metagame develops before they're like, okay, this is clearly something wrong. I still don't quite agree with the snipe change. I wish they changed it to 45-25 versus massive. It would have
Right.
solved all the same problems, but a ghost could still snipe a baneling.
Yeah, was it QXC that made the TL post about that?
Yeah, QXE made that post, and it really baffles me. You're like, okay, so the ghost, you can snipe a Mutalisk for 5 more damage than the
Right.
ghost. You're like, wait, what? Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to focus my micro? But that's for another rant for another time.
That
As
is
ga-
for another time.
yeah, as Game 5 does get underway, Tosuki spawning on the top left-hand side of the map as the teal Zerg player. Meanwhile, is this clones?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this is Everrise was the player that was listed on the roster, so I'm not sure whether this is a sub. He's also a Terran player, so I imagine perhaps it's Everrise. I'll check with one of the admins to see exactly who it is. I'll get you that in just a second.
All right, sounds good. So this is gonna be a Terran versus Zerg, and we'll pretty much open up with Marine tank, and it really feels like a lot of Terran games have really gone into the mid to late game. There's really no easy way for a Terran to apply damaging pressure. It seems like the Zerg players have learned to deal with, 2 racks or 3 racks rush, bunker rush. They've learned to deal with the reactor Hellions. So as long as Zerg doesn't get too greedy in terms of how many drones they get, making sure that they set up some static defense, Dasuki should be able to get the things into the mid game pretty easily.
Yeah, I think the current metagame is to use the early Hellion play to sort of control creep and try to deny a third. So I think if that does play out, the interesting decision for Dasuki is how early can he get up that third, and if he's on 2 bases, how is he going to tech? He's going to have a lot of gas, not being able to get on a third mineral base very quickly. So is he going to go for the early upgrades on Lings? Is he going to go for early mutas? I think we've seen him play really upgraded Ling style, which I do favor on some maps, not necessarily this one, but it really helps to crush a lot of mid-game timing attacks if you have Lings that do have 1-1 or 2-2. So I did get word that this is clans, and so Team Dynamic did have to do a little bit of a sub. So trying to look up Klans' record in past seasons to give you a little bit more information, but he is opening up with the refinery and barracks, and probably going to be getting the factory at some point shortly here.
Yeah, you got to remember that the refinery was not the standard 13 refinery. It was actually the 15 refinery. So that means that the factory will be delayed, the reactor will be delayed, but it does allow the command center to be built that much more quickly. And at this stage, it's more of an opening saying, I'm not gonna harass you. I don't expect my Hellions to get in a lot of drone kills, so I want to keep up with you economically. That's why I'm gonna delay my factory. But I sure as hell don't want to allow you to spread creep everywhere. So that's why
Right.
I'm gonna be going into the factories with the reactor and try to at least control your creep spread. As I don't plan on getting 17 drone kills. The Blue Flame Hellions haven't done that in quite some time.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that several weeks ago, but the player didn't actually do what I thought they might do in getting those late Hellions. But I think Terran players do realize that Zerg have become really good at defending against Hellions. So if you come out with those early Hellions, they're not going to do anything. So instead, you spend minerals in that earlier command center, get the better macro game, and you can still have the Hellions out in time to really control creep. But we do see Dasuki an interesting situation here, or decision by him. He did not get a second inject there on his hatchery at the natural, instead placing down a creep tumor. So I'm not sure whether he scouted the early command center and knew that he maybe had a few moments to spread creep, but if he can get down this creep tumor and get down the ramp, he might actually be able to get some decent creep spread before the Hellions come out.
Yeah, that's going to be really important to get that creep spread. I think what he wants to do is he wants to get that spine crawler on the ramp, and that's why the creep tumors are slowly pushing their way out as they are. As soon as you can get one spine crawler on the ramp, it really puts a lot more fear into a Terran player in trying to poke up and see how much damage can be dealt. Also, Zerg players have been using macro hatches and evolution chambers to semi make the ramps just much, much more tighter. and allowing the Hellions, or forcing the Hellions to drive by the Spine Crawler, taking even more damage.
Yeah, the third command center coming up, so this can be a really, really heavy econ build from Klons. He's only got 32 SCVs at the moment, or 32 supply at the moment. Really only 24 SCVs before he gets that third command center, and I know a lot of Korean Terrans really favor that quick third command center. You're able to get another orbital, so you're able to throw down triple mules, and even though they were nerfed on gold mineral patches, they're still pretty damn good on regular mineral patches. And then once he scouts the Zerg player and sees whether he can really safely take that third himself, he can quickly lift that orbital command up and take a quick third. And I think that he might do that since he sees that Dasuki is getting a quick third himself. There are roaches out though, so we'll see if Klons is going to scout these roaches and what he does to react to those.
The roach is just outside of sight range, but right now Dasuki is like, you know what? I don't need movement speed on these roaches. You gave me enough time to spread creep, and with these creep tumors and these pack of roaches, he could actually move out pretty effectively and really start this creep spread even further. So we'll see what's going to be happening. It looks like Dasuki is doing exactly that. Allowing his roaches to get into a very forward position, protect that creep tumor, and then perhaps be able to snipe down a Hellion, as the roaches are going to simply walk up, take down one Hellion, and perhaps take down a second one. No, down to 32 hit points. That Hellion forced to run all the way back home. But Dasuki looks like he's in a very comfortable position. But then Klon's also sitting on a siege tank. He's very much walled in, and with 3 command centers or orbital commands, triple mules, and being able to train up more SCVs, he looks like he's in for the long haul as well.
I talk sometimes about how it feels when certain things happen as a Zerg player, and when you're able to take down those Hellions when the Terran player is not paying attention, and you get either a Zergling surround or you get those roaches to focus down those Hellions, it feels so good because now you can just spread creep wherever you want, and you know if he's going to come out with more Hellions, it's going to cost him a lot more resources in the mid game when he really wants to be teching and expanding, and the early investment in Hellions really didn't pay off for Klons, even though it was just 2. So Dasuki able to at least get that one Hellion really helps him out, and now it looks like he's going to be taking a quick 4th, and like I said, he will be getting the melee attack, so we do have level 1 on the way, a little bit later than I thought it might come out, but he is working off of 4 gas, and he's also getting lair tech, so actually working off of 6 gas, so he's going to have a lot of gas banked once this lair pops out, and perhaps once the Spire comes.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to... Do you think... With the Zergling style, I think he might try to go in for Infestors. He could go Mutalisk, but it might just be that Zergling Baneling strategy that a lot of Zerg players have recently just liked, as the Infestors come in a little bit later, able to land a fungal growth. The only true weakness there is going to be those siege tanks with that very, very far range. As long as Klons has level 1 vehicle weapon upgrades and are able to one-shot those Zerglings, then those Zerglings are not going to be able to deal that much damage. We'll see how this is all going down. Harvester count 84 to 52 at the 11-minute mark. That is a crazy number of drones, and he doesn't really have that many workers and like that much of an army out on the field.
Right, I was just looking at that. I was going to mention it. I'm glad you did. He only has 22 lings, 4 roaches, and a few banelings. So he's coming out with more banelings now, but he is going for that now double spire. So he's going to have quick upgrades on the Spire, and if he wants, he can throw down an Infestation Pit pretty quickly as well. He's working off of 8 gas quota at not even the 12-minute mark, so this is an insane gas income for Dasuki. He's either going to be able to quickly tech up to Greater Spire, or he's going to be able to come out with, I don't know, a quick 30 mutas or so in the next 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about the double Spire, especially when one Spire is equivalent to 2 Mutalisks in terms of cost. Right. But if he's trying to go for upgraded air, that would make a lot of sense, where he can get level 1 weapons and armor upgrades. That's one thing that a lot of Zerg players normally don't get. They don't normally get armor upgrades against Terran players, but armor is really effective against Marines. Since Marines have a very fast attack rate, you can really limit the amount of damage that Marines do by, say, 15 to 20% if you do have armor upgrades. So that's going to be definitely important. Level 1 vehicle upgrades, as both sides going heavy macro, and now we are getting into 15 drones, and Dasuki will be able to add eight Mutalisks a minute. So
Yeah.
by the 16-minute mark, he could respectively have about 30 Mutalisks on the field.
Yeah, this double Spire build is actually something I've seen Leenock do in the GSL, and I know a lot of players, Zerg players, use Muta sort of for some mid-game harassment and as a transition to Tier 3. But if you're going for heavy Muta play, if you want to get that big ball of Mutas, it's really worthwhile to invest in those double upgrades. Like you mentioned, that carapace is very important because you know the Terran player is going to get the attack upgrades for Marines. So you basically have to counter that with defense upgrades on the mutas, and then obviously the attack upgrades on that big muta ball. Once it gets huge, can just start taking down very high profile and important targets very quickly. Right now it's 93 drones to 79, and neither player has really forced the other to really defend too much. We do see it. Dasuki now does have this big ball of mutas. 2 Thors are on the way, so that's going to be a great counter for Clans. But how much damage is Dasuki going to be able to do with this muta and Ling Zergling force, which is posturing right outside the base of Clans?
Yeah, right now we're going into Hive Tech. We're getting level 3 infantry upgrades, level 2 armor upgrades, level 2 weapons upgrade on vehicles. This is just a crazy macro game. Dasuki at the 200 food mark, pretty much at the 15-minute mark, and he's already banking resources. Zergling's now trying to push in. Siege Tank's out of siege mode for just a little while. The Mutalisks are now trying to push in here. How much damage will be dealt?
Yeah, the siege tank's basically unsieged right at the last second there, and it gave Dasuki a much better attack and much better trade than he really would have gotten otherwise. He did use a lot of banelings on siege tanks though, so that was a bit of a mistake on his part. He really wanted to take down more Marines to allow those mutas to be more effective, but now there are mutas, there are Thors out able to defend against those. Dasuki really has to remax here. He only has 3 larvae at the moment, so he has done his best to remax, but really needs to keep up with his injects. His queens don't have too much energy, so maybe we're just too early in the game to be able to remax at the 16-minute mark. But Klon's on the counterattack, and he's got a pretty scary army force pushing midfield now.
Baneling's now trying to run in here. It looks like the Thor is going to get caught out of position. The Zerglings could easily surround. The Mutalisks are now just simply going to try to magic box this, and it looks like there is going to be enough as the Zerglings finish off the Thors, and this time Klon's perhaps trying to do a little bit too much as he is now behind by 7 food. We are going into a greater Spire as I believe the weapons upgrade was canceled. It looked as though Dasuki opting to go for armor upgrades, and that's going to really change things and turn things around as we are currently only sitting on 5 larvae again. So Dasuki's going to have a very difficult time remassing. Infestors are now in the field, and fungal growth is going to really slow down what Klons can do as he has to be very careful with his Marines now.
But it's been really important. Dasuki has taken down most of the tanks. Right now, there are just 4 tanks on the field and 1 Thor. And in these encounters, you want to take down Thors, you want to take down tanks, because they allow your Lings to be that much more effective. We do see Ling run-bys here, and it looks like a lot of damage will be done, at least to the mineral lines here of Klons. So if the mineral lines suffer and Klons is not able to keep up with the macro of Dasuki, who is now going to be on 6 bases, this could be a lot of, or spell a lot of trouble for Klons. And I feel like Dasuki probably just sacrificing some supply there, and he's got some great damage done so far. 18 SCV kills, now 20 SCV kills. It is 99 to 71, and there's Lings in the base still working on these SCVs. I'm not sure when it's going to end.
Yeah, you can now see Mutalisks are just flying around. It looks as though they're going to be able to take out some more and more buildings. Once again, the Planetary Fortress looks like it will be completed, but 7 Broodlords now being added and not a single Viking on the field. That's got to be very, very scary as those as those Broodlords are going to have level 2 or 3 base armor. Mass fungal growth coming in, multiple Marines getting destroyed. One more fungal growth could turn around and spell doom for those chasing Marines, and yes, it does, as the Mutalisks now will try to push back in again, and Klon sitting at 178, but those Broodlords are going to spell absolute havoc. The Ghosts are not going to be able to really snipe them down, and now in comes mass Broodlings.
Yeah, it's 99 to 59 harvester count, so keep in mind that Klons and Dasuki have pretty even armies because Dasuki has just a lot of supply in drones at this point, but he's got the superior tech in those Broodlords, and he's just pushing hard midfield. I have a feeling Klon's possibly going to lose this center base. He's going to have to do his best to stim up under these Broodlords. There's just a few fungals left for
for Dasuki, so he needs to really use those well on the Marine balls as they do try to move forward to take on those Broodlords. And we see more and more Banelings now coming out, so he might just try to bust right through this mostly Marine army for Clans, and without tanks, without Thors, this is going to be very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, Dasuki now with 37 or 38 Baneling eggs currently coming underway. Ghosts,
Wow.
Marines, oh, the Mutalisk are actually moving a little bit too far. Ghost now trying to snipe, but not nearly as effective as it was just 2 days ago. And the Broodlords just raining down massive number of Broodlings. Oh, Siege Tanks getting off a couple critical blasts here. And Dasuki now in trouble as he has lost the food advantage.
And he lost all those Banelings, didn't do anything with them. The Siege Tanks focused those down so quickly. The Siege Tanks, basically, looking at them, they have a combined about 70 kills on them. So some crazy damage done by these Siege Tanks, and he really needed to push all in with those Banelings. Instead, he sort of just went down, back up, went down, back up, and every single time he took fire from those Siege Tanks, and now he's going to try to counter with Ultras, but this is going to be a late tech switch, and I'm not sure what he has in terms of army. There's 92 drones at the moment. He is floating about 3,000 minerals, so he really needs to keep up with his injects, needs to do his best with Banelings and just Lings to support these Broodlords, and Clans in a commanding position, a really big turnaround for the Terran player.
Yeah, all Dasuki really has now is a whole bunch of Zerglings coming out, but we are going into nukes. Mutalisks are in the air. The Mutalisks are upgraded 1-2, no additional upgrades coming in, but we are going into double nukes as more Ghosts are being added. And how is this all going to work out for Ghosts? Really trying to protect all of these Marines and these units. The Ghosts don't even have cloaking. The Broodlords now raining in Broodlings. Ghosts getting destroyed, but the Ghosts now going to perhaps try to go for some sniping if it's successful. One Broodlord down to 16 hit points and still surviving as all of these Siege Tanks need to unsiege and move back. The Mutalisk going to get some easy kills on some fleeing medevacs.
It's funny, we have Clans breaking off a portion of his army to take down the bases of Dasuki before they actually even go up, so I'm not sure. Oh, we do have a nuke, and it's going to be right in the center here. We'll see if Dasuki notices. It looks like he does. He is pulling back, and I think he's actually going to get maybe a free tank here. But yeah, that nuke's not going to do any damage, and now I have Dasuki swapping over to Ultras as that tank does go down. It looks like the Planetary actually took a little bit of damage as well. It is burning down to 350 HP, and Dasuki with this tech switch, after he cleans up this drop in his third, I feel like it's going to be very, very good. Like you said, the Ghost, the Snipe, just not very effective against those massive units anymore. So once the Ultras come out, once they have that the chitinous plating done, I think that's going to be pretty effective.
Zerglings now surrounding a lot of the Ghosts. The Ghosts able to run away. The Planetary Fortress about to be destroyed as the Siege Tanks may end up getting destroyed as well. Ultralisk now trying to charge in here. And a Taro. Why is a Taro still in the game? All right.
I think this is going to be GG for Clans in just a second. He's about to lose the majority of his army. And yeah, Dasuki, again, like you said, has these Ultras which just hit the field, and a lot of times as a player you'll see like a unit that you know you can't counter, you're not in a position to counter, and the second you see that, or the second you see it, like that push which includes that unit, sometimes you just GG. So Clans might do that right here, we'll say.
Yeah, right now we can slow down. This game has been crazy once we hit the mid game, and now going into the late game. Katona's planning about to finish. Dasuki is still sitting on a total combined of over 4,000 resources. Meanwhile, Clans only has 2,000, and unless he decides to go mass Raven, it's not going to be that effective. Perhaps that's what Terran players need at this stage, trying to use Seeker missiles. Taro has now left the game as Banelings finding the Ghosts, and I believe that will be GG. That really does hurt as Clans losing the real counter to those Ultralisks. Ultralisks now just chomping at the bit, waiting to take down all of these buildings here. And I think as long as Dasuki doesn't get too greedy, is careful about where he attacks and when, he should be able to force Clans to GG here in just a moment. He's already at 200 food, training up 7 additional Ultralisks, and there is the GG.
Yeah, wow, so vVv, very impressive tonight. Rocker taking 2 games, Dasuki, relatively new faces, both of them in fact taking 2 games, winning 4-1 Wednesday Night StarCraft, and I'm not sure we've seen a big stomping like this for vVv so far this season. Usually it's a little bit closer, or sometimes they lose in a close one, so very impressive by these 2 players. I love watching Rocker in his PvZ, and then we saw Dasuki with some very strong macro play in these games.
Yeah, just very, very impressive macro play, and it's almost like it's almost like Klons gave Dasuki a license to drone. He was up on a crazy, crazy number of bases. I'm trying to count them in my head right now. I believe it was over 6 at some point when Klons only had at most 4. Dasuki pretty much said and played it like the Brood War style, where at later in the game, he's like, you know what? I don't really need the minerals, but I really want the gas. And that's what he exactly did. He just took over a base, set up double extractors, had 6 drones on gas, 6 drones on minerals over there as well, and said, you know what? I'm just going to macro up like crazy. And he harvested almost 60,000 resources in that game.
He had 9